This is the Distinct Business Podcast, where driven business leaders are transformed into presence-driven business leaders. Here are your hosts, Christopherson and Sean Turner.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Distinct Podcast. The vision of Distinct is to transform driven business leaders into presence-driven business leaders. We're so excited you're joining us at Distinct. It really comes from Exodus chapter 33, where Moses is talking to God, and he says, if you won't come with us, we won't go, for what will make us distinct? Only the presence of God. And business leader, business owner, that is the only thing that will make you distinct, is the presence of the Lord with you and in your business. And this year, we are stewarding a prophetic word that was given to our church, Mercy Culture, that we are to have a year where we dedicate our businesses. And so we're doing this 7-part podcast where we're talking about the different ways that God showed us in Scripture about how to dedicate our businesses, how to honor God as we multiply, as we build, as we steward employees. And this is now our 6th one.
Yeah, episode 6. So these are all building on top of one another. So I'd recommend going back and listening. But we just finished up ethical weights and honest scales. And today we're going to be talking about the Sabbath trust.
Yes, this is a special one. This is really near and dear to me. It's something that's transformed my life, which I'll share about here in a moment. But I just want to lay the groundwork for this. So all of us have heard of the 10 Commandments, and none of us would willfully raise our hand and say, I break one of the commandments. Yet I would propose that this may be one of the commandments that people even proudly say that they break. I don't know if you know this, but the Sabbath and keeping the Sabbath is a commandment from God. Mm-hmm. Exodus chapter 20, verse 8, it says, remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days you shall labor and do all of your work, but the 7th day is a Sabbath to the Lord your God. On it you shall not do any work, you or your son or your daughter, your male servant, your female servant, your livestock, your employees, anybody, or the sojourner who is within your gates. For in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, the sea and all that's in them, and rested on the 7th. Therefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and made it holy. Now, growing up, I grew up in church. You grew up in church, Sean?
Yeah.
So I grew up in church. I never heard a message on the Sabbath.
No, same here. Not one.
I was saved when I was like 4 years old. Baptized, I think I was 8, maybe 9. I can't remember exactly which year. And my parents were elders. Like I lived at the church. And I never heard a message on the Sabbath. And I remember I was late 20s, maybe 30. And we were lead pastoring at a church. I was running an investment firm. We were running a nonprofit, and I was depleted. And I remember my wife was like, you got to figure this out or you're going to die. Like, you won't finish this race well. And she bought me this book. I had never read anything on the Sabbath, never read anything about rest. And I remember being on vacation, sitting by a pool, and reading this book about the Sabbath. And my first thoughts are, well, they just don't understand my life. Like, you don't understand, this isn't going to work for me. Like, it wasn't clicking, first chapter, second chapter, third. And it was a few chapters into the book where this author began to relate the Sabbath to tithing. This book is actually written by Robert Morris. I think it's called Take a Day Off. And he's relating the Sabbath to tithing. And all of a sudden, it clicked for me. See, there's a spiritual principle about tithing, and we would say that you're trusting that you and God with 90 is better than you on your own with 100. In the same way, the Sabbath is saying that you're trusting that you and God in 6 days can do more than you on your own in 7. And let me be clear, when you don't steward the Sabbath, it will be you on your own. And all of a sudden, when I read this, it's like the light bulb went on. I can remember being on vacation, going to dinner with my wife that night and being like, I need to Sabbath. I went back, I preached messages on the Sabbath. Like, it transformed my life. But I had been in church for 30 years.
Wow.
So there's maybe many of you who are listening to this and you're like, I've not heard this concept, or maybe you've heard it and you've not practiced it, or maybe you've attempted to and it hasn't been a consistent part of your life. Today, we want to challenge you that this is a supernatural principle, and when you obey it, God will bless you, and you'll have the rest you need to run well.
Yeah, I feel like this commandment that's been given, it's so easy to just gloss over. I have so much work to do. And it's like, yeah, work is infinite. Work is always going to be there. And
Right.
so
Never leaves.
the conscious decision to turn it off for one day, especially if you've never practiced that before, is like extremely hard. But when you look at Deuteronomy 5, it is talking about the second, giving of the Sabbath commandment. It prefaces it with the fact that, like, remember how you were slaves in Egypt, and then he goes on to give the commandment, and it's like tying that idea of rest to, if you're not doing this, you're slaves, and it's easy to become a slave
Easy.
to your business.
Yeah, we live in a hustle culture.
Mm-hmm.
We live in a culture where it's like, if you're sleeping, your competition is winning. You've got to be the best, find the way, do whatever it takes. And it's like hustle, 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 work long hours. People become slaves to their job. Like, this is the culture that we live in. So this is incredibly countercultural to what most of us are hearing on a regular basis. Let me be very clear. When you cannot rest, you are operating in a scarcity or fear mentality. You're not operating in faith or abundance. When you are struggling with Sabbath, you are partnering with a spirit of fear that says, if I don't work extra, I will get behind. You're thinking to yourself, I have to rely on my intellect. I have to rely on my time. I have to rely on my effort, because if I don't, my business will suffer, or I'm going to lose a client. And so we're placing those things as the priority. We're becoming a master to success rather than obedience to God.
I was just yesterday at this pizza shop right around the corner, and it's like a New York style pizza, and the owner happened to be there. His name is Kenny, and I was like, what brought you from New York to Texas? And he literally said, and this guy's not a Christian, he said, New York City, do you know what it's known for? It's the city that never sleeps.
Yes.
He's like, I literally was working 24/7. He's like, at 4 a.m., like, people just coming in constantly. Like, I had to literally shove people out, lock the door. And I could tell, like, even he's been in Texas for 15 years now. I can tell it's worn on him for that long, like, because he skipped Sabbaths.
So true. Business owner, listen carefully to me. Rest is not the enemy of success. Rest is not the enemy of growth. Depletion is. Disobedience is. Rest is what will empower you to scale. Rest is what will enable you to run and to maintain pace. And when you don't prioritize it, not only are you just physically, immensely, emotionally, spiritually going to be depleted, you are actually resisting the commandment of God. You are willfully saying, I'm not going to obey what God's asking me to do. That's a dangerous place to live. But quite frankly, I lived there for decades. That's all I knew. I didn't know that God actually gave me the Sabbath for me.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, and Jesus talks about that in the New Testament.
He talks about it. Let me show you this. He gives you the Sabbath in Mark chapter 2, verse 27. It says, the Sabbath was made for man, not man for the Sabbath. Listen carefully. The Sabbath is not a religious burden. The Sabbath is a gift.
Yeah.
This is a gift for you. Business leader, I know you want to scale. I know you want to grow. I know you want to get to the next level. And you're thinking, how am I going to take a day off? You're running a business and you're thinking, how is this going to work? You got to understand something. This is a gift from the Lord to you. He's recognizing that in order for you to be the best you can be at what he's asked you to steward, you need to steward your rest well. This is not meant to be a burden. I love this. If the Sabbath feels like a burden to you, the question is not whether the Sabbath is too demanding. The question is whether the business has become your master rather than the means. If you don't think you can take a Sabbath, it's because you've placed business or success as Lord and you've become its slave rather than serving God.
The Sabbath is actually exclusive to Christianity. So I looked it up, and I don't pretend to be knowledgeable on every religion, but
Don't sell yourself short.
in Islam, they talk about, so Friday is like their holy day.
Yeah.
And they say you have to go to prayer. But literally the verse after that in the Quran, it says, when prayer is concluded, disperse within the land and go back to work. So it's not even rest. It's come worship me, pause for a second, and then go back to work. Go back to striving.
So when we talk about like what makes you distinct, what makes your business distinct, or you as a leader or as a spiritual leader distinct, this is one of the foundational things that made Jewish business owners distinct from every other business out there. In Egypt didn't have it, Babylon didn't have it, Islam doesn't practice this. Every other business would be open except Jewish business owners. They would close one day a week, and it was how it made them distinct from every other business out there. Let me tell you, when you begin to steward rest well, you'll have something that other people don't have. You want to know what you'll have? First of all, you'll have the favor of God. Second of all, you'll have the strength to continue to run.
The peace, yeah.
When you struggle with the Sabbath, it's an indicator that you're trusting in your strength rather than the Lord's. When you struggle with the Sabbath, you're trying to mask weakness. I'm just going to keep pushing through rather than recognizing in your weakness, He is made strong. And the Sabbath allows you to get refreshed so that you can continue to run and multiply. In fact, this isn't just the principle that He gives to man. This is actually a principle in Scripture we see. It's for the land itself. This is fascinating.
Oh, I'm so glad we get to talk about this, because when we look at the land, and I feel like as we continue to live on and we have access to science and tools and we can dissect things, like we're just now discovering how all of creation points back to this unique designer. And so in the land, when we look at, I think it's 2 Chronicles, where's it at in my notes here? I can't find it, but 2 Chronicles 36, it's where the Israelites are now becoming enslaved by Babylon. And how long did they get enslaved for?
70 years.
70 years. But that's because for each year represented a 490-year span in which they weren't letting the land rest.
Yes.
All the way back to Saul, King Saul, up to that point had represented 70 Sabbaths that they didn't let the land rest for. But even in more modern context, when we look at George Washington Carver, he was a slave, and he taught the farmers in the South. He was seeing that after the Civil War, all these farmers were just planting cotton, and the next year they do cotton, and then the next year they do cotton, and it was depleting the soil.
Yeah.
And so he was teaching them to do two things: to let the land rest and to do crop rotation. And so it's like all these things, like, why would you do crop rotation? Well, apparently, like, cotton drains the soil, and you have to put something else like peanuts, and then something else afterwards like soybeans, and it brings in this like cultivation of stuff to inject new nutrients into the soil. But like when we don't Sabbath ourselves, I mean, we're just like the land.
100%.
And someone was telling me recently about how they remind us we came from the dust of the earth, and when we die, we will become dust again. And in some fashion, we are part of the soil, part of the earth. And so just like the land needs rest, it ties into our own human nature as us also needing rest.
So if farmers realize that their land needs that rest for it to continue to produce the right quantity of crops, the healthy style of crops, they know if they don't, they're sacrificing the quality of the harvest.
Yeah.
The same is true for us. When we don't Sabbath, we're sacrificing something. There's a cost to this disobedience. Let me tell you what this cost is. If you're not Sabbathing, eventually you're going to sacrifice your peace. You're going to sacrifice your marriage. You're going to sacrifice your health. You're going to sacrifice hearing God. You're going to sacrifice your integrity. You're going to sacrifice your children, all on the altar of productivity, all on the altar of trying to gain success, all on the altar of trying to grow and become something that you think you'll be known and people respect you more. This is a dangerous path. Like, have you ever been there where you're at the end of your rope and you don't have that next gear? Like, you can't find the oomph that you need to really lead well.
Yeah,
you found yourself there.
You have anxiety,
Yes.
like it's all going to fall apart unless I do this, or you don't have any creativity. You're just on empty.
So when I find myself there, generally it's a sign that I'm not resting well. Now, it could be signs of other things, but oftentimes it's a sign that I'm not Sabbathing well. I'm not stewarding my rest. And so what I want to do is I want to give you some practical ways to structure your Sabbath. I think oftentimes we hear about doing a Sabbath and we're like, well, we don't really know what to do.
Tell me what that looks like. Yeah.
I want to help you practically know how to do a Sabbath. So this may be one of the most important pieces of doing a Sabbath. You need to pre-decide when it is. If you don't predetermine when it is, you probably won't do it. It's kind of like if you don't decide when you're going to go work out or when you're going to go on a date with your spouse, it probably won't happen. If it's not on your calendar, it's not important. You need to predetermine my Sabbath is on Saturday or my Sabbath is on Monday or it's on Sunday. And then you put it in your schedule and nothing comes between that. So that's point number one. You predetermine. If you don't schedule it, it won't happen. Number two is you stop doing what you would normally do, or you stop what you normally produce. So the point of this is for business owners. During your Sabbath, no emails, no sales calls, no looking at dashboards, no checking your metrics, no quick check-ins. For pastors or for leaders, right? This isn't, you're not doing sermon prep, you're not counseling. So there's no strategic planning going on. Like you are disconnected from your everyday work. And for some people, this is hard, right? We're picking up our phones, we're checking the stock market, or we're checking emails, or we're doing a text message or CRM, or a client reaches out to us. We're like, I gotta respond to them. And we're constantly re-engaging in work, and we're breaking the Sabbath.
You know what I like to do on the Sabbath? Take naps. I love taking naps.
I'm going to get into a moment some of these practical things because I
Yes.
think this will transform the way you do your Sabbath, is to know exactly practically what you should do. So first one is you pre-decide. Second is you stop doing things, okay? There should be a stopping in your Sabbath, but then there should be a doing. What are you doing? You're spending time with the Lord. You're worshiping. You're more intentional in your daily encounter. You're spending longer potentially in your daily encounter. You're reading the word. You're doing things that refresh you. So the second point is important. You stop doing things. But the third point is equally as important. It's what you do. So I want to encourage you. Here's some ideas. Extended daily encounter. You journal. Maybe you do communion. You pray with your family. You're reflecting on testimonies or prophetic words. I love to do this in my daily encounter. You're slowing down. Like this is all about speed coming very, very slow. Okay. Then we get to point number 4, which is the fun part. This is where you do what refreshes you. And each of us are different. So I don't take naps. I'm not a napper. I wish I was, because it would be so nice to be able to just shut my eyes. My wife can nap for 20 minutes, wake up, and she's perfect. I can't do that. I wake up and I'm not in a good mood. So what do you do practically? What are some things you do, Sean, on your Sabbath that help you feel refreshed?
A 20-minute nap, that's nothing. That's for amateurs. I like the good 2-hour nap.
2-hour nap.
Yes. And afterwards I wake up and I'm like, oh my goodness, like I feel like a new person.
It's awesome.
But I love taking my kids on bike rides. And so we'll just go around the neighborhood and ride to a park and play at the park, play tag or whatever. And just riding a bike outside is just like a blast for us to like be away from screens.
Yes.
Be away from, because I mean, for work all day, I'm in front of a computer or a person or on the phone constantly. So I don't want to be on my phone. I don't want to be doing those things. I want to be outside enjoying nature.
So I feel like when I'm not Sabbathing, I'm constantly in make a decision mode. And I get to this decision fatigue. So in a weird way, but intentionally, on my Sabbath, I don't want to make decisions. So like if my wife is, where should we go to dinner? I'm like, I can't decide. Like you decide. I don't want to make decisions. Like I want to rest from decisions. So these are some things that I do. When I read a book, it just recharges me. So I'll go, we've got a special little area in our house where I'll go and I'll read, and I'm reading for an hour or 2 hours, I'm reading for 20 minutes, but it just helps kind of disconnect my mind from everything that's going on. Yard work, going out and doing yard work is a great way to just kind of disconnect. This is funny. You might laugh at this one though. What's really refreshing for me is to go shopping, grocery shopping specifically.
Oh my goodness.
So I feel like I don't get to do a lot of like the normal house things at times. Going shopping is like it's just the mundane, and my kids love it because I'll buy stuff that my wife wouldn't normally buy.
Yeah.
But it's refreshing for me. Or maybe it's like just watching a movie, watching a funny movie with our family, doing something like that brings us all together. It refreshes us. I'm investing in, and it recharges me. This is so important to do during your Sabbath. If you're just doing your Sabbath and like you're just playing video games and you're not getting refreshed, you're going to come out of your Sabbath and you're going to feel exhausted. You got to be intentional or it won't work.
Aaron, you and I are so different. I cannot picture
You play
myself.
video games the whole time?
I love video games, but I cannot picture myself saying, you know what, today, to be refreshed, I'm going to go look at some avocados at Whole Foods.
It's awesome. I love it. I love it. Okay, so point number 5 is disconnect from consumption and noise.
Yeah.
Now, this is important for me. I really don't get on social media ever unless it's something specific going on.
Like post and ghost. You post it and then.
So I'm literally removing apps from my phone. In fact, oftentimes I'll go weeks or months and just not have any social media on my phone, especially on my Sabbath. Don't want to be on social media. It's just, it distracts you into the noise of life. Comparison can creep in. Competition can creep in. Jealousy. Everything else can creep in, and I want to avoid that at all costs. I'm not going to listen to business podcasts. I'm not going to look at investment news. I'm not going to look at any news at all. I'm going to disconnect from noise. And then the last one, how you do your Sabbath is you prepare before it starts.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is important for my wife as an example. So when she Sabbaths, her work oftentimes is she's making food or she's cleaning or whatever around the house, so she wants to do that beforehand. So she might prepare the meal the day before, multiple meals, so she doesn't have to do anything during her Sabbath. For me as well, if I don't take care of things and cross off every box that needs to be crossed off before the Sabbath and I carry that in, it's going to be really hard to rest. So I want to encourage everybody for you to steward your Sabbath well. It begins before you Sabbath. Know you're going into it. I've got to do these things so that they're done, so I'm not stressed out about them when I'm actually resting.
My wife started doing that probably 4 or 5 years ago. She started doing all the laundry on Saturday, so it was done. So normally Sunday would have been her one day from not having to do soccer games or something with the kids, and so she got in the habit of always doing on Sunday. And we also had to do it too because she'd throw it in the washer dryer, and then we'd have all be folding clothes, putting it away, and we were like, no, this is not Sabbath material. And so, like you said, you have to prepare ahead of time.
Listen very carefully to me, business owner. If you're not Sabbathing, it's because you're trusting your strength and not the Lord's. Mm-hmm. This is not a business issue. This is not a financial issue. This is a spiritual issue. Whether you will trust God that you and him with 6 days are better than you on your own with 7. You're not that great. You're not that important where you need to break this commandment for that 7th day. Your business needs you in obedience, not in leaning on your own strength. So this is what we want to encourage you with today. If you've struggled with the Sabbath, begin today. If you've struggled with, how do I operate in this? Re-listen to this. Apply some of these practical examples. Put it in your phone. Schedule it out. Tell your family ahead of time. Make sure the employees or other business people that you work with know they can't reach you on that day. You've got to raise up big guardrails or you will break this. The devil does not want you to Sabbath. And so you've got to protect it. You've got to steward it because the Sabbath is made for you. It's a gift from the Holy Spirit. And so at Distinct, to make you a place where the presence of God dwells and rests, he's going to rest on people who obey his commandments, who steward rest, and who honor the Lord. And what I can promise you is this. You'll be a better business owner. You'll be a better parent. You'll be a better husband or a wife when you steward rest well. So we're excited for you to practice this. We're excited for you to use this in your everyday life because when you steward your Sabbath well, when you honor God in this commandment, he will make you distinct.
Distinct is a ministry of Mercy Culture Church. If you value this type of kingdom content, please share with a friend and subscribe to this channel. And follow us on social media at Distinct Business.